Vacations, travel, beaches, pools, and sun. For many of us, the summer can be an amazing time of year because of all these things. But for creators, it can also be stressful. The break in routine, maybe the slowdown in your industry, can make things really hard, and it can make you feel like the summer is actually not that fun. So we're going to help you make the summer the best time of your year by being more productive and giving you 4 ways to make sure that you are recharged, revitalized, and ready to take on your year. You all, we are at the edge of summer. The edge of summer. We are right at Memorial Day weekend, which for most of us really is the unofficial beginning of the summer. So, for those of you who are in the creative field, which should be pretty much all of us, you know that this brings mixed feelings. For some of us, it is time to relax. Well, if you're a parent, you have to think about how to get your kids to school, or not to school, but to summer camp and what the heck they're going to do. Or you're thinking of summer vacations. You're thinking of kind of winding down a little bit. But for those of us who are especially in the performing arts, the summer can be very, very stressful. It can feel like you've gotten out of your rhythm. Gigs in certain areas, like where I live in South Florida, the season kind of grinds down where people are not hiring as much. Maybe it's wedding season for some of you, so maybe work picks up for you, but then it gets more stressful because you have more work to do. So the summer just brings new challenges to creatives that we don't experience the rest of the year. Besides that, it's also the midpoint of the year. So if you have not been on the right track throughout the summer, or throughout the spring, I should say, winter and spring, if you have been feeling like, I don't know what direction I'm going, and it's June, and now things are slowing down, and I don't even know like what my process is. Summer can feel like a punch in the gut because now you're halfway through the year and you may not have achieved the goals that you've been planning to achieve. So the reason why I made this our we tried to make this our theme for this live stream, is because I want to make sure that all of our community have the most productive, but also restorative summer. Okay? Your summer does not have to be, woe is me. There's no gigs. There's no performances. Nobody's calling me. I can't afford a vacation. Let's just sit and mope. Because I've done that before. Let me just be straight up with you. I'm going to be very transparent. Even if I share this later, it's okay. If I record this and I share it later, I'm going to be okay with you. You guys are listening, but I know other people are going to be like, whoa, that's kind of deep. Summer for me used to be one of the most depressing parts of the year because remember, I was a teacher for almost 10 years. And I would get to the summer and I would be used to this time routine of getting up, getting home, doing my lesson plans, whatever. And then I'd get home and I'd get at the summer and all that would change. It would be like a totally different. And for those of us who are kind of workaholics, I was a miserable person during the summer, which sounds again weird. But I was miserable. Why? Because I hadn't really intentionally thought through how am I going to use this summer to be productive and restorative. Instead, I was like, oh, what do I do with myself? And then when I tried to do stuff, I didn't feel like I got enough done because I had more time. So why didn't I get more done? And it was like more pressure and more just discombobulation. That's just a long word that just meant I was really just messed up. And I remember that feeling. And I know creatives, we can get stuck both in the routine and the lack of the routine. So the summer for me has a lot of different connotations. And if it's for you too, let me know, even in the comments as you're watching or listening. Let me know if the summer has also been a time of frustration, of maybe lack of income, maybe things slow down, and maybe things speed up. But if summer has been a change of pace for you in the past and you have been less productive and also didn't feel rested, then share it in the chat, because if you share that, I'll know I'm not alone in that. So the question is, how can we make our summer more productive, but also more restorative so that we get to have the fun and the relaxation that we need to really recover and be the best kind of creative. And remember, those of you who are following God and Gigs for a while, we've been doing the best year ever. That's our theme for the entire year. So if you're doing the best year ever, well, then we need to have our best summer ever. Okay? So I'm going to have four tips here, four processes that I think will make your summer both productive and restorative. So let's start with number one. The first step or the first mindset I think we need to adopt as creatives who want to make our best summer that's both productive and restorative is that we have to retreat. Now, I've always had this kind of love-hate relationship with the word retreat, and here's why. It's because sometimes I felt like retreating meant like an army retreating, and you give up and you back all the way up and you don't make any more forward progress. And of course, that's the wrong idea for a retreat. What I'm thinking of is retreating from the day-to-day. Now, for some of you, that might mean taking a vacation. For some of you, that might mean simply taking a day off. Y'all raise your hands in the chat and anywhere else that you're watching if you've ever struggled to take a break. I'm just being honest with you. It's one of the hardest things for me, whether it's the summer or any other time of year, to actually retreat, to say no Instagram, no posting, no composing, no gigging, none of that. I'm just going to retreat, even if it's just in my staycation mode. I'm going to retreat and take some time away from my routine so that I can recuperate and refresh and decide what to do next. So everyone that's watching and listening, even if you can't necessarily afford a vacation during the summer, be like me, push yourself, find a way to retreat. Why am I making this a point? Because you can't do the other things that I'm about to talk about if you don't retreat. If you don't get out of the same old, if you don't get out of the routines and the processes and the expectations and the environment that you're used to, there's no way you're going to see clearly on the next three things that we're going to share. So the first step, the first plan to have a productive, restful summer is to find some way to retreat. But the second one is to review. As I mentioned earlier, this is the midpoint of the year, June, July, August. It's where you can look and see the last 6 months and say to yourself, how did things really go? Now, John Maxwell does this to a absolute ridiculous level, okay? He does this at the end of the year. He takes every calendar invite, every meeting, every single correspondence. He looks at everything and does an exhaustive evaluation of it. And he decides, was this a good use of my time? I can tell you I'm not doing that. I'm not going through every single thing. However, I am taking a chance to review all the things I've done for the first 6 months in terms of the major initiatives I've made, the major products I've tried to create, the productions I've tried to put on, the connections I've been making. I'm going to look back at all of those for the first 6 months and just say, what's really happening? What worked? What didn't work? And reviewing just gives you like that 2020 relaxed hindsight, not the, oh my gosh, I need to fix something, but the almost, what's the word I'm looking for? Almost detached way of looking at it, like it wasn't you. Like you just were in another body and you're just an observer and you're like, oh, Alan did 17 projects. Alan wrote 4 songs. Alan did 6 concerts. Alan said he was going to write a book, but didn't write a book. I mean, I'm talking to myself in the third person in a weird way, but again, it's kind of like just says, okay, this is not even me anymore. This is like a person X. And then just start to look at it, review it. What really happened? Sometimes as a creative, especially, we're doing so much and moving so fast that we really don't remember what we did. You might look at the beginning of the year, the first 6 months, to say, whoa, I was all over the place. How did I get all this done? And you give yourself a pat on the back. Or maybe you'll look at your connections and your creative output, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, there was so much that I did that I didn't give myself credit for. So the review process is not just going to be doom and gloom. You're going to give yourself some kudos for your successes. And then, as we're going to see later, you're going to also be able to mark out where you can improve. But this is part of the summer plan, just taking a break and then reviewing what went on. Alicia, I love these comments. I'm going to pull them up at the end of this because I feel like this is going to be a perfect way to kind of encapsulate what we just shared. So after we go through our review and our retreat, now we're going to renew. So what do I mean? And what's the difference between review and renew? Well, if you remember our best year ever framework, the beginning of the year, we talked about spiritual alignment. And then we talked about clarity and focus in February. And then we talked about community in March. And then we talked about monetization strategies in April. And in May, this month, we're talking about systems and time management. If in the month of June, you say, all right, which one of these things do I need to renew my commitment to? I guarantee you the rest of your year is going to go better because you renewed your commitment to the things that actually are focused or that things that you need to focus on. If you take your time and say, what's my vision? What is my purpose? What did I really set out to accomplish as you do your review? And then as you renew, excuse me, guys, as you renew your commitment to that, you will start to say, wait a minute, I can improve this year. I can put a new, my goodness, I'm so sorry, guys. Of course, whenever I'm supposed to say the most important point is whenever I get a raspy voice. So this is what I really want to focus on throughout the year, the thing that I want to renew my commitment to. So what is that for you? Maybe you want to renew your commitment to actual creative work. Maybe you've got stuck in the weeds of administration, sharing on social media, but actually writing, singing, recording, playing, maybe that got away from you. So renew your commitment to the thing that moves the needle in your creative life. Maybe it is administrative. Now, this is what we're going to talk about in the systems workshop. That's why I'm so excited. This is perfect timing for this. So I want you to think about renewing your commitment to that thing during the summer. Not everything, just the thing that is really the heart of your creative life, your spiritual life. Recommit to those things. You're going to renew your commitment during the summer. It's going to help you feel like you're balanced, restored, and back to who you are, even if you're like me and your whole routine got upset. Now, we talked about first you retreat, then we're going to review, then we're going to renew. Finally, let's revise. Renewing is about going back to the things that you absolutely want to do and focusing on them. Revision are the things we need to change. So after you renew your commitment during the summer, let's revise some things for the next 6 months. What didn't work? What things are things that you need to add or take away from your plate? And use that summertime, that time at the beach, that time in your retreat. I love what you just said, Victoria, by the way. I'm going to post all these comments at the end of this segment. But take some time to really think, okay, what's going to change now? And here's where I would do a plug for both the God and Gigs 360 community and the other communities that are even represented here. If you are in a member of a community, this is where you go to your friends and family inside the community and you say, hey, what do you think? What would you suggest for the next 6 months? Seeing what you've seen for the last 6 months. Because I guarantee you the people who really have your creativity, your spirit, your relationships at heart, they're going to help you revise your plans. Mentorship matters. So if you are in a community like God and Gigs 360, I'm kind of doing a little plug here because I do believe some of you that are even in the membership just haven't had a chance to post recently. You might think, I don't know what to post. This is what you post. Hey guys, I'm planning my next 6 months. What do you think? Don't ask ChatGPT. I get it. ChatGPT can do all this stuff, but ask a real person. What do you believe would be a great idea to push for in the next 6 months for my second half of the year? I guarantee if you do that, you're going to find so much more motivation. You're going to be restored because people are now pouring into you and you're not pouring yourself. So this is where community really matters to be able to do the revision of your plans so that your summer is productive and restorative. And again, you can do all of this at the beach. You can do this by the pool. You can do this on vacation. You can do this at home, just relaxing with your family. None of this involves a lot of work or trying to grind it out. It just means you take a step back and you say to yourself, okay, now I'm going to think of how I can make the rest of my year better. Okay? So remember, our 4 steps were to retreat, review, renew, and then revise. My friend, thank you for watching this episode. If that blessed you, you got to make sure that you stay connected with this community and this channel so that you can get more where that came from. We're sharing great interviews, tactics, strategies, mindsets, lifestyle choices. Everything is going to help you become a totally confident creative. And don't miss an episode of the God and Gig Show. If you are staying connected to our channel, you'll be able to find us anytime we release new episodes. And you can check out some of our archives of almost 200 episodes now that we've shared over the last few years. Make sure you check out one of the suggestions right now because it's probably perfect for you to continue to develop as a creative. And continue to stay connected with us because we're here to help you become the creative that God created you to be. We'll see you in the next episode.